In the realm of mobile games, there are shining gems and then there are, well, let's call them less shiny rocks. We've seen the mobile gaming world evolve over the years, blossoming from simple time passers to intricate masterpieces that can compete with console games. But with the good comes the bad, and sometimes the downright ugly. From hollow gameplay to aggressive microtransactions, some games have unfortunately missed the mark. These are the games that promised us the moon and stars, but barely managed to get us off the ground, the games that left us feeling empty and wishing we could have our time back. The games that, despite their big names and bigger budgets, failed to deliver on their promises. They're the games that serve as a reminder that not all that glitters is gold. So brace yourself as we dive into the top 7 worst mobile games of the decade. Kicking off our list at number 7, we have Roller Coaster Tycoon, a game that promised us the thrills and spills of running our own amusement park, but in reality, delivered a ride that was more akin to a broken-down Ferris wheel than a high-speed roller coaster. The main issue? It lacked originality. While the original Roller Coaster Tycoon games are adored by fans for their creativity and depth, this mobile version was nothing more than a hollow shell of its predecessors. The gameplay was simplistic, the graphics were uninspiring, and the fun factor was practically non-existent. And let's not forget about the aggressive microtransactions, which seemed more focused on squeezing every last dime out of players than providing an enjoyable gaming experience. So, Roller Coaster Tycoon, a ride we'd rather not take. At number 6, we have Pokémon Rumble Rush. This game promised to bring the lovable, fierce creatures of Pokémon to our mobile screens in a thrilling new way. However, its actual gameplay left much to be desired. Pokémon Rumble Rush was a tapping frenzy, where strategy took a backseat to mindless clicking. The battles were repetitive and lacked the depth that fans of the franchise have come to expect. Moreover, the game suffered from a noticeable lack of content. Players found themselves running through the same levels over and over again, with little variation or challenge to keep things interesting. It was as if the developers had forgotten that the key to a good game is engagement, not monotony. In the end, Pokémon Rumble Rush felt more like a chore than a game, a far cry from the immersive and exciting world of Pokémon we all know and love. Pokémon Rumble Rush, a game that left us wanting to run in the opposite direction. Coming in at number 5, we have Harry Potter Hogwarts. This game promised a magical journey through the hallowed halls of Hogwarts, but instead it delivered an experience as appealing as a Dementor's kiss. The gameplay was as flat as Professor McGonagall's stern expression, with repetitive tasks and a lack of engaging content. It was as if the developers forgot to add the secret ingredient: fun. The game was also plagued with bugs, making the gameplay experience as smooth as a ride on the night bus. And let's not forget the lack of engaging content. For a game set in the wizarding world, it was surprisingly Muggle-like in its creativity. Sadly, Harry Potter Hogwarts did not live up to the magic and wonder of its namesake. It's a classic case of a great concept, poorly executed. It was more of a disappointment than the time we found out Hufflepuffs can't actually talk to badgers. Harry Potter Hogwarts, a game that made us wish for an invisibility cloak. Landing at number 4, we have Tom Clancy's Elite Squad Airstrike. This game promised a high-stakes, tactical mobile experience, but instead, left players navigating a barren wasteland of missed opportunities. The game's overview hinted at an engrossing military strategy game, complete with an engaging storyline and a roster of beloved characters from Tom Clancy's universe. However, the gameplay footage told a different tale. Instead of a well-rounded tactical experience, players found themselves in a monotonous cycle of repetitive missions and battles that lacked depth and strategy. The game's content was as sparse as a desert, leaving players parched for more engaging gameplay and meaningful progression. Moreover, the game lacked engagement. Despite having a roster of well-known characters, it failed to capitalize on this, leading to a lackluster experience that felt disconnected from the rich Tom Clancy universe. In the end, Tom Clancy's Elite Squad Airstrike was a game that had its crosshairs set on success but ultimately missed the target. Revving up at number 3, we have Forza Street on Con. This title, a spin-off from the popular Forza series, promised high-octane street racing action, but unfortunately, it delivered something far less thrilling. The game's gameplay, which was reduced to a series of taps and holds, lacked the depth and excitement that fans of the series had come to expect. The excitement of gear shifting and car handling, the very essence of racing games, was replaced with a more simplistic, almost automated approach. This made for a rather hollow gaming experience that felt more like a chore than a thrill ride. Further adding to the disappointment was the excessive presence of microtransactions. While it's not uncommon for free games to feature in-game purchases, Forza Street on Con seemed to place a heavy emphasis on them, often at the expense of the gameplay experience. Forza Street on Con, a game that stalled at the starting line. At number 2, we have Family Guy: The Quest for Stuff. This game promised us a hilarious time, a chance to step into the shoes of our favorite dysfunctional Griffin family. But did it deliver? Not quite. The game starts off with promise, a seemingly fun quest to rebuild Quahog after a disaster. But don't let the initial charm fool you. It quickly devolves into a monotonous cycle of tapping on buildings and characters which, let's face it, is as exciting as watching paint dry. The humor, a signature of the Family Guy series, is there, but it's buried under the tedious gameplay and aggressive microtransactions. It's as if the developers took the fun, engaging world of Family Guy and turned it into a soulless cash grab. And the content? Sparse. The engagement? Minimal. It's like going to a party where everyone's on their phones. In conclusion, Family Guy. The quest for stuff, a quest we'd rather not embark on. And finally, the worst of the worst, at number 1, we have Dungeon Keeper. This game, which was released in 2014, promised to be a thrilling experience of dungeon exploration and epic battles. However, it ended up being a monumental disappointment, leaving gamers everywhere in a state of bewilderment. The game's premise sounds promising enough. As the Dungeon Keeper, you're tasked with building and managing your own dungeon, battling against heroes, and ruling the underworld. Yet, the execution was far from ideal. The gameplay was riddled with issues, including a clunky interface and repetitive tasks. Instead of the exciting strategic gameplay we were promised, we were met with endless hours of mind-numbing clicking. But the gameplay wasn't the only problem. The game was infested with bugs that led to frequent crashes, making it nearly impossible to make any real progress. It was as if the game was actively fighting against you, refusing to let you enjoy even a moment of dungeon keeping. And let's not forget about the content, or rather, the lack thereof. The game was sorely lacking in engaging content, with a limited number of dungeons and repetitive battles. There was no real sense of progression or achievement, making the game feel more like a chore than a form of entertainment. These failures have had a significant impact on the gaming industry. It's a stark reminder that a promising concept isn't enough. A game needs solid execution to meet the expectations of its players. It's a lesson that developers and players alike can learn from. No amount of hype can make up for poor gameplay, bugs, and lack of engaging content. So there you have it. Dungeon Keeper, a game that promised so much yet delivered so little. A game that, instead of keeping us engaged in thrilling battles and strategic dungeon management, kept us in the dark about its potential. Dungeon Keeper, a game that truly kept us in the dark about its potential.